Hi, it's Josie, and today I'd like to explain to you how you teach your horse to respond to your seat aids. It's not a very difficult process, but you have to have a good seat with good balance so that you can give reproducible aids all the time and they're not different. So if your aids are different each time but you want the same thing, it's very confusing for him. So your seat doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be reasonably balanced. You can't be moving all over the place. If your seat needs work, please work on it. I still work on my seat every day. It's far from perfect. So by the end of this video, you will have a basic understanding of how you go about teaching your horse to respond to your seat. So your seat is any part of you that is in the saddle, basically from your knee up through your thigh, over the bit that you sit on and your buttocks and all the way down to the other knee. That is classified as your seat, and where your upper body sits actually has a impact on your seat. So just sit when next time you get on your horse and go backwards and forwards. Now I can feel that is right on my crutch, and when I sit back this way it's sitting right on the upper part of my buttocks, and I can feel myself changing my weight on my poor horse's back. You need to find the middle bit of that with your seat bones. If you don't know where your seat bones are, lift a thigh, sit on one of your hands facing upwards, like literally put it underneath, and you will feel the bony bit, and that is your seat bone on your whatever side you're doing. I can feel my right one now, and if you go backwards and forwards, you'll actually feel yourself roll right over it. So you actually have to sit in the middle of your seat in a balanced position to have your seat bones on your horse, and they tell your horse a lot about what he's supposed to do. So before your horse can answer your seat aids, he needs to know the basic go, stop and turn aids. And we teach them obviously from our legs and our reins. So 2 reins is usually stop, like that. That was definitely a rein driven stop. 2 legs ask your horse to go forward, and turning him is usually taking the rein a little bit more the way you want him to go and using your inside leg perhaps to ask him to bend around. They are the basic aids your horse needs to know. Now I've done a video on that, and I'm going to pop that up here, and I'll also add it at the end and pop it in the description. So if you don't know those things, or you want to just have a refresh to make sure you've got them, go and watch that video. Let's get on with teaching him how to listen to your seat. So once he understands them, you are the one that has to become completely diligent in what you're doing to aid your horse. So I use my seat aids. Doesn't matter whether I'm riding a more advanced horse or an absolute green horse. My seat aids are always used because it's part of my circle of aids and what I use to communicate with my horse. And although the green horse doesn't understand my seat aids, they soon have the association with them. So horses are going to learn this by association. So let's just talk about getting the horse to stop first, because that's one thing a lot of people want, is their horse to be able to stop from their seat aids. So if you're nice and balanced on your horse and following your horse in his walk, you can watch what happens to my pelvis here. So basically from my waistline down to my thighs, it's moving with the horse. I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting here, and I'm supple enough on him that it follows him. I'm not sitting here slouched. I'm sitting up tall, almost as if I had a book on my head. Not stretched enough to be stiff, because see, then my pelvis stops working. But just sitting with all of my head stacked above my torso, stacked above my pelvis in a nice balanced stack. So my pelvis follows my horse. When I want to stop, a split second before I stop him, I literally stop following him as much as I am now, and I sit up a little taller, pull my belly button in, and I actually touch the reins a little bit there, and I touch the reins and he stops. So my seat came before my rein aids. Spider does know these, so it doesn't actually work this well on a really green horse. You actually have to slow your seat, and then he's not really listening, and then what you do is any way you can, you get him to stop and let go of everything. Then you ask him to go and your seat's following him, and you slow your belly and you use your seat to retard it to get him to stop. He doesn't stop, you use your reins. And then you drop your reins and then you go off again and you're walking. You have the patience of a saint when you're teaching a horse. You slow he listened then a little bit. You slow your belly down so it's not quite, you stop it, and then you ask with your reins and your horse stops. Now that could take you 6 weeks to teach your horse. It could take you 6 minutes. Every horse is different, every situation is different. Today he might know it, tomorrow he doesn't remember it. That is one of the beauties of training horses. You never know what they're going to give you on the day, and you need to be thankful for whatever you get. But I do promise you, the more you do it, the more you'll have days where it works. So basically what you need to do with your seat to ask your horse to stop is you always use your seat first, retard the movement of your seat, then use your reins. And then what you'll find is one day you'll be walking along, following your horse like this, and you'll just retard your seat and he stops. Now you can see there were no reins there. Spider stopped completely off my seat. How do we teach him to go? How do we teach him to go? First of all, as I said before, your horse has to understand that your legs mean go. So what you do is you put your seat on your horse a little bit before you add your legs and you ask him to go. He's not going to go from your seat in the beginning, he's going to go from your legs. But if you pair the two of them together fairly closely, he will certainly learn that the seat means go. And if you give him the opportunity, he will go from you using your seat aid. What is a seat aid for go? This is the best analogy that I can come up with. This is the best analogy I can give you to teach you how I use my seat to get my horse to go. So this all happens in a split second on the horse's back, but literally as I put my seat on, it's like that. It's enough. This isn't the best. Oh yes it is, there it is. So I've got my seat bones on the edge of this and I am just tipping it a little bit up. So when I'm on my horse, I just tip it a little bit up. My legs go around him, which actually gives me a bit of stability if he doesn't go, to give him a good squeeze with my seat. So what you do is give your horse the go aid. So my legs are just gently on my horse's side. I've just tipped my seat on him and now added my leg. If you go back, you'll see that, or I'll just show you again actually. You just watch my whole body. I'll say when I tip my seat on and then I use my legs, okay? Tip my seat, use my leg. Good boy. I don't care about where the front end of him is. I want to teach him this thing. Tip my seat, use my leg. So I am actually having to use my leg a little bit on Spider. I'd like him to be a little better off my seat than that personally. So you're actually watching a real training session here. I'd like him to be a little better. So tip my seat, use my leg. Ask him to stop. Good boy. Good boy. Tip my seat. I went to use my leg and I didn't really have to. He went off my seat tipping. So that was a little tune up for him. Stop him with my seat. He dawdled a bit into that slot. Tip my seat. Yes, good boy. So he went from me tilting my seat. Now when I tilt my seat, and if you try and find something to sit on and do that, when I tilt my seat, I literally, my legs come on very slightly anyway, just because I need that little bit of something to tilt it with. So he will go from that aid. Now I use that aid to go up into trot as well, except for me, I use a bump aid. I hope that helps you a little bit with how to teach your horse seat aids. So he needs to have a base understanding of rein and leg aids, and then you just bring your seat aids in and put them close enough to your other aids that he starts to associate them. And don't worry if he has a dull day. Look at Spider today. I had to give a little tune up off of my go forward seat aid. He's had a few days off and they come in a bit dull. That's not unusual. Thanks for watching, guys. So you need,